Hello viewers and listeners, welcome to another English class. And in our last class we discussed singular and plural nouns, and we discussed how nouns form their plural. We explained that some nouns form their plural by adding only s, others form their plural by adding es, some other nouns form their plural by making certain changes in the word. For example, nouns end in y and a consonant letter before the y, you change the y to I and then you add es. For example, you have a word like this, lady, you want to make it plural, you change this y to I, then what do? You add es. So instead of you writing lady with s like this, you have to do this, ladies. We also discussed that words end in O, not all, but many words end in O form their plural by adding es to the O. For example, when you have this tomato, you add es. We also discussed that some words end in F. If you want to make it plural, you have to change the F or FE to V, and then you add es. What do you have like this? Knife. You cannot add s directly. What do you need to do? You have to do this. You change this FE to V, and then you add es. So this is what we discussed. So you were given some exercises before the end of the lesson, and also an assignment was given to you. Now let us look at our assignment. What was the assignment? The assignment was complete this table. What do you have on the table? You have singular and plural. There are words that are put in their singular form. You are asked to give their plural form. Other words are put in plural form, and you are asked to give their singular forms. So here are the words: lorry, advice. The two words are in singular form. Give their plural forms. So you also have monkeys, furniture, and tables. These words are in plural forms. Give their singular form. You have words like dear, information. These two words are in singular forms. Give their plural forms. So we have words like news, trousers. These two words are in their plural forms. So you are asked to give their singular forms. You have a word like foot. So it's in singular form. Give its plural form. Now let's look at our corrections. Good. Compare these answers to yours. We have singular and plural. Here we have lorry, lorries. What do? Change the y to I, and then you add es. Why do you do that? Because there is a consonant letter before the y. So we have advice. Are you going to add s to say advices? No. Why? Because we discussed that advice is a zero plural word. It doesn't take any inflections. So monkey, what do? We add s, we have what? Monkeys. So furniture remains furniture because it's zero plural. So here table, the singular form, plural is what? Tables. Dear, zero plural, you don't need to say dears. And information, zero plural, you don't need to say informations. News, you don't say newses. And again, trousers remain the same. You also say trousers. So far this is the correction, and I hope that you've done extremely well. So today we're going to move to another topic, which is functions of nouns. Functions of nouns. Nouns have 6 different grammatical functions. They are subject of a verb, object of a verb, subject complement, object complement, complement of a preposition, appositive, or an apposition to another noun. These are the 6 main functions of nouns. So we're going to look at them one after the other. We move on. Nouns are subject of the verb. The subject can be a person, place, things, or idea. As we discussed in our definition, that a noun names a person, place, animal, or things, or idea. And the same noun that makes up a subject. Therefore, the subject can either be a person, place, things, or idea. So what is a subject? What do we mean when we say this is the subject of the sentence? So we say the subject performs an act or shows a state of being as expressed by the verb. That means that in sentences, the subject either does something or shows a state of being. The subject is easily recognized as it usually comes at the beginning of a sentence and is followed by a verb. Not in all cases, but many a times, subjects begins a sentence. Sometimes the subject might not begin the sentence, but then it also comes before the verb. For example, we say, the man stepped on my toes. If you look at the sentence here, the man, this is the subject, okay? And then we continue. Step is the verb. So here the subject comes before the verb. We say the man stepped on my toes. So this is the man as the subject. What makes it the subject? Because it does an action. What does the man do? The man step. So here we can see the subject comes before the verb. So we move on. We look at other example. The car smashed into a wall. Fatu is a student. So when you look at that, Fatu is a student. Fatu is the subject. Here it does not do anything, but then it shows a state. We said Fatu is a student. So we said Kiang West is a district in Lower River region. So if you look at all these examples, these are examples of noun functioning as subject of the verb. We move on. Object of the verb. A noun functions as an object of a verb when it receives the action of an action verb. An action verb is a verb that shows action. A noun can be direct object or of a verb or indirect object. So noun functions as object when it suffers the action of the verb done by the subject. You were told earlier that the subject performs an action. What receives the action is what we call the object. Let's look at this example. We look at this. We say the dog chased the rat. Here, our sentence, we have the dog, our subject. Chase is the verb, rat is the object. So here, the dog does something. What did the dog do? It chased. Who did the dog chase? The rat. So here, the rat becomes the object because it suffers the actions of the verb done by the subject. We look at this again. We say the cat killed the rat. The same thing applies. Here is the cat. Our subject, what did the cat do? It killed, which is the verb. And what did the cat kill is the rat. So here the rat becomes the object of the verb. So here we understand that object always suffers the action. Who does the action? The subject. So noun functions as object of the verb when they receive the action of the verb done by the subject. So you can see more examples here on the board. So I am painting the dog house. So here the dog house is the object because that receives the action. Here we have again Tom bit his nail. So here nail is the object because it suffers the action of the verb bit. We move on. Indirect object. A noun functions as an indirect object of a verb when it does not directly receive the action of the verb, but rather receives the direct object. For example, the man gave the boy a book to read. So if you look at here this sentence, the boy is the indirect object of the verb gave, whereas book is the direct object. The indirect object is clearly receiving the direct object. Now look at this. The man gave the boy a book to read. What the man actually gave is the book. Therefore, book becomes the direct object. It doesn't matter where it appears in the sentence. It doesn't matter where it appears in the sentence. All right? What matters is who received the main action. Okay, if you look at here, the man is the subject who did something. What did the man do? He gave. What did he actually give? A book. Then book there is a direct object. Then boy becomes indirect object. Even though boy came after the verb immediately, that does not make it to be a direct object. So the direct object receives the main action. So we move on. Example 2, Lamin bought his son a brand new bicycle. Here also, if you look at this, the direct object here is brand new bicycle. So here the son becomes indirect object. So here you understand that what Lamin bought, not the son, but he bought a brand new bicycle, which is the direct object. So the indirect object becomes his son. You can say Lamin bought a brand new bicycle. That's a direct object. Lamin bought his son a brand new bicycle. So if you have to analyze this grammatically, Lamin becomes the subject of the verb, and bought is the verb, and his son is an object, but an indirect object. What makes it an indirect object? Because it does not receive the main action. The main action is received by the bicycle. This is Lamin who did something. What did he do? He bought. What did he buy? New bicycle. So that's the direct object. So we move on. We look at this. I sent my sister some money. So if you look at this sentence also, we have a direct and indirect object. What is the indirect object? My sister. What is the direct object? Some money. How do we know that? Because if you look at the subject, which is I, he did something. What did he do? He sent. What did he send? Some money. The subject did not send the sister. The subject sent some money. So here some money becomes the direct object and my sister becomes indirect object. So we look at example 4. We look at example 4. The mother was cooking her family a seafood dinner. So if you look at this here, the indirect object is her family. What is the direct object? A seafood. Because if you look at this sentence here, you analyze it well, you realize that the mother was not actually cooking her family, but the mother was cooking what? A seafood. So that seafood is the direct object because it receives the actions of the verb done by the subject. Where's the subject? The mother. What did the mother do? The mother cooked. Oh, she was cooking. What was she cooking? Her family? No. She was cooking a seafood. So here, the seafood receives the main action, therefore becomes the direct object. What you need to understand here is that her family coming after cooking does not make it a direct object because it did not receive the main action. What received the main action is the seafood. So you said the direct object is seafood, and the indirect object is her family. So we look at number 5. Jack sent a letter to his parents. So if you look at this one also, we have a direct object and indirect object. What is the indirect object? His parents. What is the direct object? A letter. So the same thing, you could have turned the sentence in the other way around. You could have said, Jack sent his parents a letter. All right? Jack sent his parents a letter. So the same thing would apply. What did Jack actually send is a letter. He did not send the parents. Number 6, she poured drinks for the boys. Nouns also can function as complement of the verb. A noun is said to be functioning as the complement of a verb when it comes after a linking verb or state of being verb and receive no action from the verb. Not all verbs are action words. We will discuss that in our subsequent lessons. There are verbs that express an action. There are other verbs that don't express any action. So if a noun comes after a verb which does not express an action, that noun would function as complement of the verb. Others will call it complement of the subject. So here we look at it. A complement of a verb can also rename or define the subject of the sentence. That is why some people will call it complement of the subject, because it is renaming or redefining the subject. Let's get our example here. John's father is a soldier. Here the soldier is functioning as complement to the verb because it adds more meaning to the verb. If I should say, John's father is, and I stop there, you wouldn't understand. But when I add a soldier, you'll understand some more about John's father. So here you can see a soldier as a noun is a complement to the verb. Others, as I told you, will call it complement to the subject because they also believe that it adds more meaning to the subject. So we move on. I have a car. A car here becomes a complement to the verb. If you said I have, of course we understand that you have something, but what do you have actually is not known. So you tell us that I have a car, then we understand that you have a car. Therefore, car as a noun is a complement to the verb, or the other way around is a complement to the subject I. Because when you say I have, we know that the subject has. But what this subject has is not known. So bring in complement will make us understand better. So we move on. My brother is a driver. So here also a driver as a noun is complementing the verb. In the other way around, the subject if you like. Because without it, we wouldn't understand the subject, the sentence fully. When we say, my brother is, and we stop there, would we understand anything about your brother? Are you telling us that your brother is a teacher, your brother is a student, your brother is a player? No. So here, complement adds more meaning to the subject, or it completes the verb. You said, my brother is a driver. Here we understand that your brother is a driver. So we said, the two boys are friends. If we have said the two boys are, we wouldn't understand the sentence. In this case, the sentence would need a complement. So what do we say? The two boys are friends. So here friends becomes the complement. So you are told that complement usually comes after an auxiliary verb. So as you can see, sentence number 1, John's father is a soldier. Is a primary auxiliary verb, of course, followed by a noun, a soldier, makes the sentence complement. So here, John's father is a soldier. The same thing applies. Is as a primary auxiliary verb, a soldier came in as complement. I have a car. The same thing applies. Have as an auxiliary verb followed by a noun, car, completes the meaning of the sentence. We move on. Object of a preposition. A noun functions as an object of a preposition when it comes just after a preposition in a sentence. For example, I bought a gift for John. So here, John is a noun functioning as the object of the preposition for. Why? Because it came after the preposition. We move on. We said, I need to give the message to Ali. So here with Ali is a noun functioning as the object of the preposition to. So remember, you were told earlier that a noun functions as an object of a preposition when it comes just after a preposition. Now here, if you look at this, John and Ali, both of them came after a preposition. What do you say? I bought a gift for John. Now for there is the preposition followed by John. So we move on. Number 3, Joe broke his nose in a fight. So here the preposition is in, and the noun here is what? A fight. So then we move on. The two peoples follow behind the girl. So the girl here becomes object of the preposition because it comes after the preposition behind. Bird watching is my favorite hobby. It's a favorite hobby of the villagers. So here also the villagers functioning as object of a preposition because it came after the preposition of. Number 6, everyone is complaining about the boss. So here also we understand that the boss as noun functioning as object of the preposition because it came after a preposition about. So you need to understand that whenever a noun comes after a preposition, of course that noun will function as object of a preposition, as you can see them in the examples given above. We move on. Noun functioning as an apposition to another noun. A noun functions as an apposition to another noun when it comes after another noun and renames it or explains it further. Now, let's get examples here for better understanding. What do we see? John, the student, has passed all his exams. Here, you understand that the student is functioning as an apposition to the noun John. Who is John? He is the student. Who is the student? Is John. And that will take us back to our definition. Says a noun functions as an apposition to another noun when it comes after another noun and renames it or explains it. If you look at here, we can simply say John has passed all his exams. So bringing the student, of course, we're trying to rename or trying to explain who John is. So we said John, the student, has passed all his exams. So without appositions, your sentence is also correct. You can say John has passed all his exams. Equally, you can say the student has passed all his exams. So we move on. We get number 2. Yusundur, the musician, has retired from the music industry. So here also we can say the musician is the apposition. Okay? We look at this, we say the musician, which is a noun, is functioning as an apposition to the noun Yusundur. So here, who is Yusundur? It's the musician. Who is musician? It's Yusundur. We move on. So we get the summary here. The 6 main functions of nouns are: 1, subject of a verb. Example, the nurse works at the health center. Where is the subject here? The nurse. What makes it the subject? 1, is a noun. 2, it comes before the verb. And you were told that a noun or a subject is either a noun or a pronoun. or a subject can be a person, animal, place, or things. So here, nouns is a noun. It names a person, it begins the sentence, and of course, it also comes before the verb. That would actually qualify the word to be a subject. The other thing we discussed was noun function as object of a verb. We said noun will function as object of a verb when it receives the actions of the verb done by the subject. Here we know that the subject does something. Not in all cases, but in many cases, the subject does something. So in this case, when we talk of the driver hit the dog, so the subject here would give us as the driver who did something. What did he do? He hit. What did the driver hit? The dog. So here the dog becomes the object of the verb because it receives the action. It suffers the action of the verb. So we look at the other one, subject complement. We look at this, we say a noun functions as subject complement when it completes either the verb or the subject. We say Momodu is a student. Our sentence will not be completed if we say Momodu is and we keep quiet. But when we say Momodu is a student, then we have a complete sentence with better understanding. So we said Momodu is a student. If we should say Momodu is and we keep quiet, we wouldn't understand who Momodu is. But when we add Momodu is a student, students as a noun would actually complete the meaning of the sentence. Therefore, you cannot say Momodu is, you stop there. You need to say Momodu is a student, or Momodu is a footballer, Momodu is a teacher, Momodu is a lecturer, etc. Without this, we will not understand. So complement basically completes the meaning of the subject or the meaning of the verb depending on. So again, we have the student nicknamed their teacher Ronaldo. So here also we have direct and indirect object here, as we discussed, that a noun can function as direct or indirect object depending on the position. We move on. Good. Complement of a preposition. Noun function as a complement of a preposition when it comes after a preposition. We look at the example here. The little boy gave his toy to Omar. If you look at here, you have two objects. What are they? His toy, the other one, Omar. So we look at this, the little boy gave his toy. Is the object of the verb gave. The little boy gave his toy. His toy is the object of the verb gave. To Omar, Omar is the object of the preposition to. Good, we move on. So the last one we said, noun can function as a positive or an opposition to another noun. For example, we look at this, Mr. Job, the vice principal, is a young man. So here we understand that Mr. Job is the same as the vice principal. So here the vice principal as a noun functioning as an appositive to the noun or to the subject, Mr. Job. I told you that a sentence can make sense without a positive. You can say Mr. Job is a young man. Your sentence is there. You can also say Mr. Job, the vice principal. Here, mentioning the vice principal, you are trying to rename him or to define him. But with or without it, your sentence is there. You can simply say Mr. Job is a young man. The same as Mr. Job, the vice principal. So here, bringing the vice principal, you are telling us who Mr. Job is. Because you said Mr. Job, the teacher, Mr. Job, the soldier. So this noun becomes now an appositive to the noun. We move on. Now we're going to look at this classwork. What do you do here? Underline and identify. You're going to do here two tasks. You're going to underline, and after underlining, you're going to identify the functions of nouns in the following sentences. What are the sentences? Number one, the goalkeeper kicked the penalty. Number two, the imam conducts the prayer. Number three, the man killed the goat. Number four, the lady bought the car. Number five, Mr. Ba is the principal. Number six, Pajalo is the day watchman. Number 7, Lamin calls his friends a liar. Number 8, the coach trained the girls the new game. Number 9, I met some students at the market. Number 10, Mrs. Carr, the coordinator, lives in Brussels. Good. So identify and underline the functions of nouns in the following sentences. Good. Let's look at the correction here. Sentence number 1 reads, the goalkeeper kicked the penalty. What are the nouns? The nouns are the goalkeeper and penalty. Here, the goalkeeper functioning as a subject because it does something. What did the goalkeeper do? He kicked. So the penalty also as a noun functioning as object because it receives the actions of the verb done by the subject. Here, the subject did something. What did he do? He kicked. What did he kick? The penalty. So the penalty here receives the action. Number 2, the imam conducts the prayer. So imam here as a noun functioning as a subject. Why? Because he does something. What did he do? He conducts. What did he conduct the prayer? Then here prayer as a noun becomes the object of the verb. So we move on. Number 3, the man killed the goat. Again here, the man is underlined and identified as noun. What is the function? It's a subject. Why? Because it does an action. What is the action? He killed. What did the man kill? The goat. Therefore, the goat becomes the object of the verb because it suffers the action of the killing. So we look at this. Mr. Ba is the principal. So here we have 2 nouns, Mr. Ba and the principal. So Mr. Ba is the subject, even though he didn't do anything, but is the entity being discussed here. Okay, so the principal becomes the complement of the subject. If we just say Mr. Ba, we keep quiet. Would we know anything about Mr. Ba? No. But when we bring a complement, we will have better understanding who Mr. Ba is. Now we move on. Pajalo is the day watchman. So here we have 2 nouns, Pajalo and day watchman. Pajalo here is the subject. The day watchman becomes the complement. Lamin calls his friend a liar. So here Lamin becomes the subject and calls becomes the verb. His friends, of course, an object. Okay, a liar, of course. We also move on. The coach trained the girls the new game. Here the coach is the subject. What did he do? He trains. Whom did he train? The girls. What did he train them? The new game. So here, the new game becomes the indirect object. The direct object here is the girls. Because if you look at the coach train, whom did he train? The girls. They received the training directly. So here we have, I met some students at the market. So here again, I, of course, is the subject. It is not underlined because it is a pronoun, and we are dealing with nouns. What, of course, is the subject of the sentence. Some students at the market. Some students, of course, is the object of the verb met. At the market became the object of the preposition at because it came after the preposition at. So last, number 10, Mrs. Carr, the coordinator, lives in Brussels. So here the coordinator as a noun is functioning as an appositive to the subject or to the noun. We could say Mrs. Carr lives in Brussels. So bringing Mrs. Carr, the coordinator, we're trying to redefine or to rename Mrs. Carr. So we bring in this emphasis. Therefore, the coordinator as a noun, it is functioning as an appositive to the noun Mrs. Carr. Good. Now take this class exercise. Underline and identify the functions of nouns in the following. The same, the goalkeeper kicked the ball, the goalkeeper kicked the penalty, the imam conducts the prayer, the man killed the goat, the lady bought the car, until you reach number 10. Then if you are done, we will work on the correction. Thank you. That's all for today. I wish you all the best, and I thank you all for your kind attention. As I always advise you, always stay at home, focus on your notes, read your books, wash your hands with soap, avoid crowded places. I wish you all the best and thank you all very much. Bye.